Welcome back to our special Making America Healthy Again. I want to go right now to Vani Hari. She is the food babe and founder of the protein of choice of everyone here on the show, True Vani. New York Times bestselling author, a couple different books. Probably the most relevant to our conversation right now is Feeding You Lies, how to unravel the food industry's playbook and reclaim your health. Ms. Hari, how are you today?
Good. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really glad you're here. And thanks for all your many years of this fight. And finally, we're all catching up to you. Where did this come from? Why is this your passion at all?
Well, my parents came here to the United States as immigrants. And when my dad had an arranged marriage to my mom, he brought her over here on her honeymoon and said, if we're going to live in America, we're going to eat like Americans. And that is how I was raised, on an ultra processed diet that was full of foods that you would find at fast food. I mean, I was at McDonald's every single time there was a coloring sheet available to get a free meal, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Easter, whatever, growing up. And it was just part of my diet. And as a result, I was a very sick child. I was on several prescription drugs, had eczema, had asthma, had allergies. And in my early 20s, I hit rock bottom where I landed in the hospital getting my appendix taken out. And it was that moment that I decided to take health seriously and look at what I was eating. And what I found was shocking. I couldn't believe all of the man-made chemicals I was eating on a day-to-day basis. That I was eating food that was not created by nature, that was created in a laboratory, additives that were being used to solely kind of create a delicious product, but not add anything to my health. And when I chose to remove processed food from my diet, everything changed. I lost weight, my depression went away, my anxiety went away. I basically became another person. I went off 9 prescription drugs. And my eczema, my asthma, my allergies all vanished as a result. And it was something that I just couldn't shut up about, frankly. And the people around me, my friends, my family, my coworkers, all wanted to know the secret to this new transformation that I was going through, because they saw the changes from a physical standpoint and they wanted a piece of what I was doing. And so they asked me to start a blog. And at first I wanted to call it eathealthyliveforever.com. And my husband, who's the tech geek in the family, said that was a terrible name. No one's going to remember that blog to go to. And he found Food Babe for $10 on auction. And we named the blog Food Babe. And for a year and a half, I actually never had my photo on the header of Food Babe. It was really about teaching other people to become a food babe. But I found myself hiding behind this persona because, again, I was still working in the corporate world, working for big, as a big six consultant for all these financial institutions, these giant banks. And so my job was very serious. And so I kind of hid this blog behind this name Food Babe while I was writing. But, eventually it came out that who I was and what I was doing. And it became so incredible when I started to realize the community was bigger than just my friends and my family. It was a group of people that not only care about their health, but they're willing to hold these companies accountable to make better changes. And it was when Chick-fil-A invited me to their headquarters where I had to take off work to go consult with them instead, that I realized that I had an opportunity to really change the food industry. And at that point, I quit my consulting financial career and became a food activist for the first time. And, when I quit my job, I quit it cold turkey, wasn't making a dime doing what I was doing. And it was a very scary time, but what it allowed me to do is focus in on these issues that I had an insatiable curiosity about. And the first one was an issue that I'm still fighting today: how American companies are using ingredients they don't use in other countries in the same exact product that they use here in the United States. A more poisonous, more toxic version here in the United States when they're using safer, better for you ingredients in other countries. And this runs the gamut. I mean, back then I did an investigation and I saw that Quaker Oats, for example, strawberry oatmeal here in the United States was artificially dyed dried apple pieces with red 40 coloring to make a strawberry oatmeal. But in Europe, it was real strawberries. And seeing that side-by-side comparison is what fueled me to take action. And so I decided to take on one of the largest food corporations in the world, Kraft, on the fact that they were serving little children macaroni and cheese with artificial food dyes here in the United States, but not in other countries. And we took them on. We got over 386,000 petitions. I took those to Kraft headquarters, and they told me we have to agree to disagree. And eventually they had to change because we changed the market share. We informed so many people of the truth about their product that they lost customers. Customers went to their competitor, Annie's, who then General Mills ended up buying for $800 million. And then they had to change. It was just an incredible awareness event. And it was the start of this massive movement to create petitions, to hold companies accountable, and do what the government leaders have not been doing in Washington, which is telling these companies that it's not okay. It's not okay to serve a better, safer version of your product for other citizens. You should be selling the same safer version for all your customers when you find out that there's problematic ingredients in them.
Good for you. It's an amazing story. I heard from Casey Means, I never heard this before, that the tobacco companies for a while, like in the 80s, owned all the food companies. And the argument is they brought in their scientists and they brought in their marketing teams, and kind of that was the beginning of the downfall. Do you believe that story? And I guess the bigger question is, how did we go in our great country from real food to fake food?
Yeah, I mean, that was the catalyst that, Philip Morris and RJR Reynolds came in and they bought Kraft Foods and they bought General Foods at the time. And they took the technology that they learned on how to hook people to cigarettes and use that same flavoring technology in food. And so it's largely that flavor component. When you see it on an ingredient label, it's called natural flavor. And it can mean 1,000 different chemicals behind that one label. And that's one of the biggest loopholes right now that exists at the FDA, is that food companies can put any kind of combination of chemical around that label. But what those chemicals do is they create the 1 millionth best part of the taste. It's what PepsiCo uses a robot that mimics human taste buds to test how addictive their products are so that we can't stop eating them. And this is what other companies are using, this technology to allow the entire bliss point to happen in your brain so you can't stop eating a product. It's so that every time you go to that product, you remember the flavor, your mouth starts to water, you start to remember that taste. And it's the same thing that actually MSG does. And this is something that's in a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, for example. Like, the reason why my mouth waters when I say Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich is because of the MSG. I remember what it tastes like, even though I haven't had it in 15 years.
So that's under the category of natural flavors or artificial flavors on the labeling?
Both artificial flavors and natural flavors. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. What a trick. Because you see natural flavors and you're like, oh, that must be natural and good. But you're right. There's no telling what they're allowed to put behind that. Let me throw you something that people still tell me today. Oh, food babe, come on. I eat junk and I've eaten junk my whole life and I'm fine. Or my grandma ate nothing but junk and she's 95 and she's healthy as a horse. What's the big deal? You and blah, blah, blah. What do you say to that?
The junk has changed. When you look at products comparing like what certain products that we used to indulge in, like hamburgers and French fries and all of those things. Like, for example, McDonald's used to use beef tallow to fry their French fries. Now they're using genetically engineered seed oils that are planted to withstand heavy doses of the chemical Roundup linked to cancer. So we have an entire chemical dependent food system that's been created since the 1980s. And so this is something that is new. It's a massive experiment. We owe it to our children to tell them the truth about what's been done to the food system. This is something that I do with my kids. I have a actually, he just turned 4 last week, 4 and 8-year-old, daughter. I have a 4-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. And it's something that I make sure that they know the truth about what's been done. When they go down the cereal aisle and they see all of the cartoon characters, they know that's poison. They know, and they point it out to me every single time. And every time my husband takes them to the grocery store, they're sending me pictures of them in the cereal aisle because they're pointing out the ingredients and they're learning about what's happening in the food system. This is what every single parent should be doing right now. We should be holding these we should be holding these educational systems about what to eat and what not to eat, how to avoid these chemicals, these man-made additives that have created this mass experiment for our bodies. And now we are seeing what's happening as a result. 38% of preteens, 12 to 18 years old, are pre-diabetic. It used to be 0. That is unacceptable. There is something we have to do. We have to change this next generation. It starts with education. It starts with telling them the truth, and telling them the truth in a way that makes them understand that something man-made in a laboratory is not good for their body.
I've always said, at first it was about technology, but I've always said that real life is better than fake life, and it's the same thing. Real food's better than fake food. Last question for you, Vani. I'll let you get on. Are you worried? I'm sure you're excited about RFK Jr. and just the whole MAHA movement moving forward here in the government, et cetera. But are you worried about the power of the lobbyists and how they're going to come in and they're going to crush you and crush everything and continue on behind the scenes with all their stuff because they got the big money and they'll be able to fund what they need to do to get away with it more? Are you worried about the lobbyists?
I'm not too worried about the lobbyists because I've been up against them before when it came to the GMO labeling fight in the past, where we worked to get genetically engineered ingredients on labels. They were really nasty. And when the chemical corporations got involved, I mean, I had my Wikipedia page taken over. I had people, threatening me at my talks at different universities. I had to have security. There were situations where there were quote unquote independent experts that were unleashed in the media to take me on every single time I would have a positive change in the food industry, to tell people that I'm a fear monger, that I'm a chemical phobe, that I, all of these different names that they would use to destroy my character. And I've been through this before, so I'm ready for it. And now is our time. We've got someone
Yes.
that is set to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services that has also been through this gamut and has been through this fight and has had everything thrown at him. And so that is one of the reasons why I think he's one of the people that are the most qualified to take on this role, to dismantle the corruption in Washington and undo the conflicts of interest that we've seen from year after year that have prevented real action from changing. I'll just give you an example. Red number 3 is banned in cosmetics. You can't use it in lipstick, but it's still allowed in food that we serve to children, and it causes cancer. They banned it 35 years ago. But you know what happened? The maraschino cherry industry, who supplies all the alcoholic drinks, who works with the alcohol industry, had such a strong lobby that they allowed it still in food because of that. And to this day,
Wow.
Government leaders in Washington, someone is blocking this. Even though there's been a petition to the FDA, they've admitted that there's this problem in a hearing that they just did with Bernie Sanders on December 5th, 2024. And this is something that, again, is something that has to be dismantled. There is some conflict of interest that are preventing, no-brainer, low-hanging fruit changes that would impact our health from happening.
Yes, and we need to be strong and fight against it. But there's going to be those people who are like, this is an existential crisis for the maraschino cherry company, and they're going to put everything they can against these common sense things that need to happen. But I think this is our time to fight back against it. We got about 30 seconds. Give everyone tell everyone why Truvani is better than the protein that I've been using. I'm a recent convert, and I didn't realize till I saw Truvani by accident that I have this many ingredients in my protein powder, and Truvani has like 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So I truly believe there's a better way to do processed food. And I wanted to prove it. And that's why I started Truvani, because I wanted to create products that were using real ingredients without added chemicals, foods without toxins, labels without lies. And I wanted to create a protein powder that was just the basic ingredients, not the gar gum, the locust bean gum that disrupt your gut, and the carrageenan that you see in so many products. I didn't want to put the natural flavor and the artificial flavor you see on so many products, which allows them to use less real ingredients and make a profit. I wanted to create the best in class protein powders and products. And now we have a real food bar that's made with ingredients that you would find in your own kitchen. We just launched that in Whole Foods. It's absolutely incredible. We have our protein powder in Walmart. It's something that's growing, and it's also proving that you can change the food industry from the inside out, and you can do this change. And now I see our competitors trying to mimic us, and I can't think of a better thing. My partners will say that they hate that, right? But I actually think that's amazing, because this is showing that when you create best in class products, more best in class products will be invented as a result, and everybody benefits from that.
Yes, I'm so glad that someone with your principles and values made that and have proved that it can be done and tastes great. Vani Hari, the Food Babe. True Vani is the name of that protein powder, and the book. Go buy it. Feeding You Lies, among others, and cookbooks included. Miss Hari, wonderful to talk to you. Keep up the wonderful work.
Thank you so much for having me.